Locke was a central figure in early liberal thought. He developed the basics of the theory of human rights, though for a relatively small wealthy elite, and challenged some more traditional authoritarian monarchist views. Further, he promoted a limited form of tolerance. His ideas became central to many Enlightenment political movements and form the historical basis for many present-day political institutions. Politically, however, Locke's theories provide a political ideology which supports bourgeois revolutions, protecting property rights of new capitalist elites and wealthy landowners against kings and commoners alike. His ideas are about equal rights should not be understood as the origin of egalitarian thinking, which certainly predates him with more radical movements such as the Diggers and Levellers, but as a compromise supporting capitalist hierarchies whilst challenging those hierarchies which oppose the new economic system. He had early connections with the liberal Whig Party, connected with elites interested in protecting their power through limiting the power of the monarchy, and later on increased economic liberalization. In his arguments against the divine right of kings and advocacy for more democratic parliamentary and constitutional systems, Locke was central to the development of human rights derived from a religious framework. This moral philosophy was central to liberal economic doctrines and underlay many of the theories of property rights later used to justify the dissolution of the Commons in the Enclosures Act. However, his view on property rights are less absolute than those enshrined in capitalism. They derived from a labour theory of value, and they included caveats that property rights should not be extended if they left others with too little. While these notions were clearly contradicted by the distribution of wealth in his own time, he seems to have offered little critique of these deviations. His focus was largely on negative liberties and freedoms from the interference of others rather than the positive rights to economic necessities. Locke was also an early empiricist, claiming that knowledge stemmed from real-world experiences, although with some caveats for some class of subjective versus objective observations. This, however, seems at odds with a moral and political philosophy not grounded in existing power relations and conditions, but in an abstract idea of decontextualized rights, without basis in how they emerge, are enforced, protected, or eroded. Instead, he views society as largely an organization formed from individuals' consent to common leadership, in a version of social contract theory, ignoring the often violent expansion of nations and the destruction of alternative forms of livelihood, which would allow dissenters a true opportunity to avoid such social contracts. This is reinforced by a purely theoretical understanding of a natural life as a primordial peaceful pre-society from which social groups emerge in order to guarantee rights. Consequently, Locke turned to religious views in order to ground such a system outside of human power structures. In conclusion, his ideas formed an enduring moral and legal philosophy and the groundwork for many current-day institutions. However, the expansion of rights to various marginalized groups has more to do with their own struggles based on more left-leaning philosophers than on a logical conclusion of Locke's ideas. Further, while his ideas on empiricism were certainly important for the development of economic thought, these ideas were only used erratically in his own understanding of the economic and the institutional, which was more grounded in abstract religious reasoning about a historical, apolitical, universal conception of rights.